How are we doing tonight?
Good. I'm hungry. Hungry.
Hungry, tired, good?
Cookie.
So,
Aside from that, school's almost over.
I know.
you guys like got 2 weeks of school left.
I know.
What are you talking about? You have
30 days until I
You
graduate.
did school at home, you don't count. You're a homeschool.
Between now and the end.
4 years of that.
It was a joke.
What's the joke?
Anyway,
Wait, what's the
tonight, since tonight is my last night, I thought that we should finish our series on theology and doctrine, so we're going to go through the rest of it tonight. We're going to be here for 17 hours. Are we good? Okay, if I see someone whip somebody else with a wicked stick again today, I'm taking them all away.
Wait, starting when?
Starting now. No more. No, seriously. No. Bring it in. Tonight really is, tonight's my last night here with you guys. And, I've been thinking about this a lot. What can I leave you guys with? What should my last time with you be? And, I'm thinking about what should I say when I leave? And after seeing my office today, I think I'm ready to leave.
Wow.
That was a joke.
Wow.
If you had seen my office, you would, Seriously. I had like 3 mop buckets full of water, individual cups that we laid down on my floor. And random ones, I noticed a pattern. I thought the pattern was the red ones had the fish, but there was a non-red one that had a fish in it. So you didn't get the pattern right. Random ones had fish in them, and one of them was dead and floating. And it was like,
Oh my God!
So-
Oh my goodness! That's
seriously.
real.
yes. Anyway, I've been thinking about this whole last week, what do I want my final words to be, guys? And, I thought that instead of it being my words, I would use Paul's words, not that Paul, the cool Paul. Paul the Apostle.
That's definitely not that.
And he actually has a book, he has a letter that actually pretty much encapsulates everything that I want to say to you guys, and it's the book of Philippians. It's the letter to the church in Philippi. And so just, we're going to go through the first two chapters of Philippians tonight. Not the whole first two, but selected verses. But you all know me, and whenever we start a new series or a new chapter or a new book, what do we have to do first?
Context.
Get some context, because we don't know what we're talking about, that we don't know what we're talking about, right? So, Philippians, just really quick, the church in Philippi was actually founded by Paul. It was one of Paul's churches that he founded during his second missionary journey. And because of that, he probably, like many of the other churches he founded, he probably felt a certain sense of ownership or pride for this church, like he did with many of the other churches. But Philippi is somewhat unique in that this is one of the few letters we have from Paul in the New Testament where he's not chewing people out. He's not yelling at them for making all these mistakes. He's not correcting their mistakes. He's not telling them, this is what you did wrong, this is what you did wrong, this is what you did wrong. Don't make me come back, because if I come back, I'm going to come back with like a sword in hand and stuff like that. He didn't have to say that with Philippi. The Philippian church was actually doing really well. And because of that, Paul, who's writing in prison when he's writing his letter, he's actually just expressing his gratitude for them because they just sent him a financial gift to help him in prison. So he's expressing his gratitude to them for that. He's expressing just his love and his affection for this church that listened to and embodied and put into practice everything that he had taught them. And the reason why I want to look through this letter really quick with you guys is because I feel the same. I don't need to chew you all out for all the mistakes that you've been making over the past 3.5 years, because you're really in it. And it's been an awesome time for me. And so I thought that we could look at this and just celebrate and look at what Paul says to this church, this group of people, who, for the most part, So, let's begin in chapter 1 of Philippians. Chapter 1, verses 8 through 11. And I'm going to go ahead and just read this. So chapter 1, verses 8 through 11 says this. God can testify how I long for you, for how I long for all of you with the affection of Christ Jesus. And this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best and may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ to the glory and praise of God. So guys, first and foremost, just like Paul here, my heart is and will always be with you before you. For the last 3.5 years, there has been few greater joys in my life than watching you all learn and grow in your knowledge of and love for God. And that's been my purpose here. It's been one of the purposes that I feel like God has called me to for the past 3.5 years, is to help you. Again, you don't even know how proud I am of you and how much I love you. My heart is just for you. That doesn't matter if I'm here or if I'm somewhere else. My heart is for you. So like Paul, the goal for everything that we've done together, that I've done with you guys in ministry together, is to increase your love for God. That has been the goal for everything, is to help you to increase your love for God. Because of what Paul says right here, what this love results in. So let's take a look at what Paul says here about love for God and what following Christ results in. First, he says love increases. Love increases through increasing knowledge and understanding. And I know that this should sound familiar to you all because I said it maybe 1,000 times. Maybe not quite that many, but I've said it a ton of times. Your love for God increases as you grow to know Him. You can't truly, deeply, and intimately love someone that you don't know anything about. It's just, that's the way we're made. And so, our love for God increases through our knowledge and understanding. Without knowledge, without understanding of who God is and what He is, and what He's about, without understanding Him, His will, and His purposes as much as possible, our love for Him cannot grow and increase. So first, increase your love through increasing knowledge and understanding. Second, Paul says here, love, through this increasing knowledge and understanding, results in discernment. Discernment. It results in the ability to know right and wrong, good and evil. It results in the ability to know God's very mind and heart. And so, knowledge itself, as we've talked about, is meaningless if it doesn't come with the ability as well to determine God's will. So love leads to knowledge, which leads to discernment. And finally, he says, all of this together, love, knowledge, and discernment and understanding, is what allows us to be able to live according to God's will. Motivated love brings the ability to be pure and blameless before God. Right? That's why love is the basis for everything. Love for God is the basis for everything. And finally, he ends this section with living according to God's will, being motivated by His love and informed by knowledge and guided by discernment, results in sanctification. The fruit of righteousness that he talks about here, that comes through Jesus Christ, is that we are molded into Christ's image and become more like Him. And that in turn leads to greater love for Him, which starts the process all over again. And so, like I said, this has been the foundation of everything that I have done with you guys for the past 3.5 years. And this is why I'm so focused and so stressed on the relationship with God, love for Him, closeness and intimacy with Him. Because without love for God, this is important, So, is this pretty clear what he says right here in these first couple of verses? Yes, no? Any questions on that? Okay, let's skip ahead a little bit. Still in chapter 1, verses 27 through 29. Here Paul begins to describe for us, explain for us, paint a picture for us of what living for God, what living a life of love for God looks like. And so, Philippians 1, 27 through 29 says this: "Whatever happens, conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Then, whether I come and see you or only hear about you in my absence, I will know that you stand firm in the one Spirit, striving together as one for the faith of the gospel, without being frightened in any way by those who oppose you. This is a sign to them that they will be destroyed, but that you will be saved, and that by God. For it has been granted to you on behalf of Christ, not only to believe in him, but also to suffer for him." So guys, live this way. Live this. Whether I'm here with you, like Paul, or if I'm only here with you in spirit, live your lives this way. Live your life in a manner worthy of the good news of Christ. The good news that can only come through Christ's ultimate sacrifice for us. Live your life in such a way so as to be worthy of the salvation that was given to you. That's what Paul's trying to tell us here, and that's what he's claiming. Live your life. In addition to living this way in your own life, Paul is telling us here something that's very important. You guys, we need to live this life this way together. You all together here in this room. You all are family. You are brothers and sisters in Christ. You are the church. You are a family. You're the church that God has given Jesus as his bride. And so what Paul is telling us here is the Christian life, this life that we're called to, of loving God, of serving his will, of being conformed to Jesus' likeness. Paul is telling us here, this life is not meant to be lived alone. It's not meant to be lived in isolation. It's meant to be lived together. All of you, all of us together. It's meant to be lived in each of us providing support and encouragement and love for each other. You have to understand that this ability to live together, this living together the Christian life, is actually a gift. It's a gift from God. It's a gift, this support, this encouragement, this strength that we can provide each other. It's a gift from God that shows us that he loves us and that we're saved. It's a gift to show us our salvation. It's proof. The fact that we are called to live Christian life together, the fact that we are called to be a church, to be a family, to be brothers and sisters in Christ, is proof of God's love for us. It's proof that he doesn't leave us alone, but instead provides for us by giving us a community to help us in which we are able to. Finally, this section right here tells us that we need this community. We actually need to come together as brothers and sisters in Christ and live this way because of the suffering that we're going to endure as Christians. And the suffering that's coming from God. And remember, we've talked about this before. Difficult times from God for Christians are discipline. They're a sign of his love. They're a sign, they're the way by which God molds us to Jesus' image. They're the means of sanctification in our lives. So discipline, suffering in our life, if we're doing it for Christ, is a good thing. But God knows us and knows that even when it's good, it's still difficult. It still hurts. It still stings. So He's given us community. He's given us family to support us and to encourage us and to strengthen us and to help us through not only suffering, but to understand what the suffering is about and why it's there. Things like advice, encouragement, support, discernment. All of these can come from God speaking into your life through the lives of the brothers and sisters He's placed. We are meant to live in community. We're meant to love and encourage and support each other. And Paul, we're going to talk about what this looks like in more detail in just a little bit. But for now, we need to remember and we need to thank God for the fact that He has gifted us with community. For the fact that each of you are sitting next to your brothers and sisters in Christ who can love you and support you and encourage you. Okay. It's a gift and honor. So, let's move on to chapter 2, where Paul explains just a little bit what this community of Christians looks like. And so Philippians 2, 1 through 5 says this. Therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from His love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and of one mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interest of the others. In your relationships with each other, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus. So these are a little weighty, so let's look at this. Here, Paul is giving us an idea, a look, a glimpse of Christian community. And he tells us, A, what we as individuals should do, what we should look like. B, what we as a family, as a church should look like. And C, what we as a family should not look like. So he's given us these three things. What we should look like individually, what we should look like as a family, and what we shouldn't look like. So let's look at the individual attributes. Each of us in our own lives, through God's loving influence, through the process of sanctification, should have these attributes in our own lives. Encouragement in Christ. Comfort from His love. Participation in the Spirit means learning, discerning, and doing the will of God as outlined in Scripture and affirmed through the Holy Spirit in our own lives. And affection and sympathy. So, our lives as individuals should be marked by encouragement, comfort from His love, participating in the Spirit, and affection and sympathy. That's what we as individuals should look like. That's what we should strive to embody, what we should strive to model. And then Paul gives us what we as a family, as a church should look like. It says God works individually to produce these things in our lives in order to allow us to effectively live with and minister and love and support and encourage each other. These individual attributes should lead to these group attributes that Paul talks about here. These are the positive attributes that we should struggle, we should strive for in our walk with Christ as a community. It says it's this: same-mindedness, being of same mind, same lovedness, and yes, I just made up that word because it fit. Same lovedness, having the same love, full of accord, humility, and helping each other. So we as a group, as a community of Christ followers, should be same-minded, same love, full of accord, humble, which means that we count others more significant than ourselves, helping. That's what this group, this community gives us some things that we have to avoid at all costs. There's only two of them: selfish ambition and conceit or arrogance. So, selfishness, ambition, and conceit are the opposite of these attributes that we should have as a community, that we should have as a Christ bride. Ultimately, Paul concludes here by saying that we should have the very same mindset, the same outlook of Christ, which Paul goes on to describe as being so selfless as to sacrifice his very life to bring glory to God. And that should be individually and corporately what we are about, ultimately. Just like Christ, we should ultimately be about bringing God glory. So Paul here tells us what a Christian group, a group of Christ followers, should be marked by. And this is what I want to leave you all with as well. And that's this: be a community. Be a family. Be a group of Christ followers who love and encourage and support each other. Allow what God is doing in your own life, the ways in which He is sanctifying you individually, permeate the group, permeate the community, so that you as a community can embody Christ-likeness as well. This is the whole point of the youth group. This is the whole point of what we do here. It's the whole point of church. It's about this place, these people. Loving and supporting and encouraging. We should be giving each other what we have and what we know. It's why we are here. It's why God calls us into community in the first place. And this is what it comes down to. Alone, individually, as individual Christians, as individual Christ followers, we are not equipped with what we need in order to completely and fully submit to and follow God's will. We're not. And that's why God gives us community. God designed us this way so that we would come together and be family. To give strength where we have strength to those who are weak. And allow others to give us their strength to the Lord. It's a great and loving gift from God. And so I want to leave you tonight with this last section, or not last section, but this last section that we're going to look at in Philippians. It's chapter 2, verses 12 through 16. And this one is so clear, it's so easy, just so right there, that I don't even think I need to explain it to you. So just listen as I read this last section. Starting in 12, going through 16. Therefore, my dear friends, as you have always obeyed, not only in my presence, but now much more in my absence, continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill His good purpose. Do everything without grumbling or arguing, so that you may become blameless and pure, children of God without fault in a warped and crooked generation. And you will shine among them like stars in the sky, as you hold firmly to the word of life. And then I will be able to boast on that day, on the day of Christ, that I did not run or labor in vain. So this so perfectly sums up what I want to leave you guys with, that I'm glad that Paul wrote it, so I wouldn't have to write something that's not nearly as clear or nearly as eloquent myself. And that's this, guys. Shine. Shine like stars. Be a light to the world. Let your love for your God and your love for each other be so powerful, so lovely, so pure, and so radiant that everyone around you can't help but wonder what's causing it and how they can miss it. Hold firm to this. Hold firm to the word of life. Don't stray stray from it. Don't dismiss it. Don't ignore it. Treat it as if it is the most precious gift that has ever been given to you. Because it is. And so, guys, I love you all more than you could possibly know. I'm going to miss you all more than you probably know. But at the same time, I'm joyous in this. I'm not worried in the slightest. It's because I know in whose hands I'm in. First, Paul and the adult volunteers. All the adult volunteers, the gathering church, everyone, your family, they all love you. They all will go out of their way to provide you with everything that they possibly can to support you and to strengthen you and to encourage you in your walk with Christ. And so I'm not worried at all, because I know in whose hands I'm in. Not just their hands, but ultimately, I'm not worried because it's all in God's hands. And we talked about in the past 4 months and exploring God. It's a good thing that you are in God's hands. We can trust God's will because of who He is. We can trust Him. Even though we don't understand it, even though it's difficult for us, even though it causes pain in our heart, we can ultimately trust Him and rely on God's will. So I'm not worried that I know that I'm leaving in God's hands because He never left His hands. This isn't my youth group. This isn't my ministry. This is God's youth group and God's ministry. He's allowed me to be a part of it for the past 3.5 years. And I thank Him for that. But this is God's youth group. Thank you all for the last 3.5 years of love and joy. And just plain good times. Everything is good for a world. Let's pray. Father God, I thank you for now, Lord. I thank you, Lord, for just this reminder of who you are. How awesome and how powerful, how wonderful you are, how you've given us so much, everything that we need in order to live the life that you've called us, which is the life of goodness. So, Lord, as I leave here tonight, Lord, I ask, of course, for your blessing, for your continued empowerment in this youth group. I pray, Lord, that everyone here will take these words to heart. More and more throughout the years to come, that this group would just embody what you told us that you believe. More than just a group of people who come and learn about you, but we would be a good body. Community and friendship and family. Thank you, Lord, for the past 3.5 years of just the blessing that you've given me through being part of this. In your name I pray, ask these things. Amen. So guys, it's been awesome. Thank you so much. Love you.
Now we serve.